Hi, today we're going to do what I consider a fast and dirty method of how to rust dye, and we're going to use one of my favorite supplies, Tannin, which gives it a nice smoky look to the overall fabric when we're done. So, some of the supplies I have. One container, doesn't matter much about what size or shape. I have one large garbage bag, which I'm going to put in here to protect the container just from smells, basically. And when I take this outside for the bake stage, it's also going to help soak in that heat. I have a supply of rusty materials, most of which I picked up along the railroad tracks when they do repairs, and I have some fabric. So let's take a look at the individual components. Here's how I prepared my fabrics. I have a selection of cottons. I might have a little linen. I made sure I threw in a piece of wool just because this is an experiment. And I have some of these old napkins that I got at an auction. So this is ready. The vinegar that you can use is either white or apple cider vinegar, whichever you have on hand. I happen to use apple cider vinegar for this batch. And this is my tannin. And my tannin is coming from an art supply store. You might be able to get it from places that are selling more things that have to do with the wine industry. But the tannin, I can sprinkle it on because this is a little salt shaker. And I can sprinkle it on and give it the fabric that nice smoky look so that there's three colors going on. The original fabric color, the bright orange that shows up with the rust, and then this smoke. So let's get started. Okay, I prepared my big plastic bag so that it has as few wrinkles on the very bottom as possible. I just don't want the vinegar and any activity to be hidden in the folds underneath. This bag is super big. All I'm going to do is, I don't really go after individual shapes and looks. I don't have anything super delicate that would look good that way, but what I do have is bulk. So what I do is I put down a layer of this fabric, and I want it crumply on the bottom. Then I'm going to go after a little tannin, just sprinkle a little in here, and I'm going to start putting on some of these plates. So this one is going to go right there. Next, I'm going to put the fabric over the top of that, and again, I'm letting it be bulky and wrinkled so that it's not going to form a big whopping square of rust. So then I'm going to put on some other shapes. Great shapes that you find on the railroad tracks. These are not clean and are just basically for fun. So I'm putting on some more tannin, trying not to overdo it. Then I'm going to put on some more fabric. And let that squish around the different shapes. Sprinkle a little tannin on there. Some more on top of that. Put some more shapes in here. Railroad ties. These circles, which I always like. This is something that I found actually in Green Bay along the railroad tracks. I have no idea what it is, but it looks like it's pure rust. And because I'm not going to see perfect shapes, I'm not overly concerned about much of anything. Put on another layer. Here's my wool, so it'll be interesting to see what that shows up as. Just make sure things are ideally one layer thick, not 4 from being folded. And this stuff is soaking wet with vinegar. So my goal when I take this outside would normally be to make sure that it sits in the sun for about 2 to 3 days. 3 is better. Because what it's going to do is it's going to keep letting that rust soak into the fabric. However, I will be gone for 5 days this time. So I'm just going to do it anyway and hope for the best. So you'll see what happens if perhaps I get too much dye, or excuse me, rust on something. And does it possibly damage the fabric? It could, but we'll find out. And then I'm going to pour the little remainder on here because my only goal for taking it outside is to keep it damp for those days that it's sitting in the sun. So throw on a couple other pieces. Just want to get a lot of coverage. I do not, you'll notice, lay things out nice and pretty. I don't have the patience for it, and I don't have the delicate pieces. So that's why I'm wrinkling my fabric up. So, you know what? Forgot a little tannin. So let's sprinkle some of that on there. Hope for the best. And now all I'm going to do is wrap this up tight. Put something heavy on the top to keep the airflow at a minimum and set it outside to bake in the sun. So, see you in about 5 days.